I'm Natalie. My boring title is content marketing, SEO, and website specialist. I've had 20 years in the digital marketing industry, and some of that, the early days was corporate, and I've run an agency style business, was a web designer, worked with lots of SEOs, and then in 2020, quite a significant thing happened, gave me a chance to kind of reevaluate, and I realised there's a lot of people doing what I was doing, but there wasn't a lot of people kind of translating the SEO side of things. So my more interesting title is I call myself a jargon-free SEO translator. So I'm kind of in the middle, able to speak the human's language, but also to translate the SEO jargon in such a way that it's sort of understandable, and I'd even go as far as saying quite enjoyable. So that's kind of what I do, and thank you for inviting me along.
Amazing. Well, great to have you here. So I'll talk a bit more about me in a sec, but I also also spent many years doing marketing stuff, and I found very simply is, essentially customers over here, lots of money over here, and in the middle, stuff. Especially once you start to grow your business a little bit. Really fascinated with coaches. I've had coaches myself, and I found these are the people that I want to hang out with. So, when I found out Natalie was working with coaches as well, I was like, yes, we need to simplify the stuff so that more coaches can get to scale. Because if we can help more coaches succeed, that's a world I want to live in. So with that, let's talk a bit about, what's going to happen today. So I want to make sure you guys are in the right place. So you guys are in the right place. If you love helping people create change, if you know who you love to work with, you have some paying clients, and you want to keep growing without the wheels falling off. So this is kind of where we were talking about with scale. Natalie, have I forgotten anything? Was that anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we agreed that it's important you know who your ideal customer is, and that you have an offer that is selling, because then you're in a good position to then go to that sort of next level.
100%. Because scale is one of my coaches said, scaling is not about doing more things; it's about doing more things that scale. Right, and getting things to to a point that they can scale up faster is sort of the necessary precursor to that. So having clients, knowing who your clients are, knowing what the problems are, is a necessary precursor. So because as we mentioned with the tech and stuff, there's so much. With ChatGPT, you can pretty much build anything these days. There's no shortage of people selling you the new cool shiny thing. But how do we actually put that together in such a way that it actually scales up and it actually works instead of making more chaos? And the filter, I'll have you guys think through that, is it useful for humans? Are you building stuff that is useful for the humans you care about? This is why we want to make sure that we know who your target market is. And you've actually, they've paid you some money and your stuff works, is the shorthand for scale. So as we get growing up, I mean, Natalie, you've had some experience with your clients. When you start scaling up, some of the challenges that they start to come across.
Yeah, so something that I've definitely noticed is that clients will have worked on their ideal customer quite heavily, but actually there's still something missing. And what I've noticed is that it's the kind of messaging. It's their messaging, and they've been focusing a bit too much on the ideal customer and not the problem they solve. And so it's really important. Part of what I do is helping kind of take them back a step to really make sure that they have gone deep and figured out the problem they solve, because often it's the same problem you solve, but it's for you could have different ideal customers, and that's absolutely fine. So I've had good success with the process I use, and being able to do this, trust the process of figuring out your messaging, and then the output of that is a hell of a lot of content ideas, tons and tons and tons of content ideas, which can then be fed back in.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. And I think as you get all of those concepts, you get all of those ideas, we need to turn that, have an engine that can actually turn that into done. So this is what we find, when you're starting to scale, because it's the problem of like, I don't have any money, or I don't have any clients, and you start getting some clients, you start getting some money, and suddenly it's like, Kajabi, Instagram, Facebook, Calendly, MailChimp, LinkedIn Live, TikTok, it's all kind of coming at you. And then you've got different kinds of customers. They've got all different problems. It can get a mess. So this is, the the challenge, I call it of abundance, when things start working a little bit. And I think one of the reasons why, that Natalie, teamed up is that together, we can help you straighten this all out. Of going, ultimately, the way to fix this is to build a bridge. Instead of trying to do all the things for all the people, build a bridge from your ideal customers to where they want to go, help them cross the obstacles that are in the way, and build systems that help them do that so that you don't have to. And I think that's the critical transition in terms of getting to scale, is that, as a coach, you can get to about 10,000 a month just doing one-to-one clients, purely based on referral. But if you want to break past that, there's this transition that needs to happen where the things that are happening inside you, you're getting awareness of new people, you're warming people up, you're closing them, and then you're delivering. It's all happening when you're just plugging that and building a system that does that without you. So we talk about awareness, consideration, decision, and delivery as the four kind of main chunks of that. And this is where Natalie is going to talk about that. This piece over here is that, her wheelhouse here is about getting, getting visibility, getting known, and then turning that awareness into leads. And that's the messaging, and I'm going to get her to talk about that. And I'll talk about some of these bits over here, events and CRM. So those are the four components we're going to talk about. Four strategies for scaling your coaching business in 2023. Sound good? You're in the right place, all right? Fantastic. I'm sure we'll squeeze in a squirrel taming demonstration as well, I'm sure, at some point. Cool. But without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Natalie and say, so this is going to talk about this side, about your and CRO, in the context of, how do we, building a bridge for people to get, for your ideal clients to find you, and then find out that you can help them. So Natalie, over to you.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things that I talk about quite a lot with the online world is that there's traffic, which John and I were talking this morning, and you could argue actually getting traffic quite easy-ish. But that's one side of it, and then you've got the conversion. And often what happens is, because the messaging and the content of someone's website isn't quite right for their ideal customer, there's a disconnect. And so if you were using paid ads to get the traffic, it could be the right traffic, but when they get there, it's not coming, or it's not what they were expecting. And then equally, it could be the wrong traffic. And again, when they get there, then, so when you're spending money on advertising like that, you don't really want to be throwing money out of the window. You want to be making sure that the two work in harmony, because getting them onto the website, we want them to take that next step, whether that is a small conversion of signing up to your list, or whether that's a bigger conversion of booking a call with you. We want to get them into your world, so that you're essentially, pre-qualifying that customer, and your content is able to do that for you. And as I said just now, I think a lot of the problem, the challenges for coaches, is that they haven't figured out the messaging bit quite. It's not quite working, and they know that, but they're not quite sure why it's not working. So that's sort of where I come in. And so then I don't know if I can, oh, can you give me the next slide, please, John? Thank you. So with regards to traffic or awareness, as John referred to it, SEO is a very good way of increasing your visibility. And I talk about sort of destination websites. So you might be doing lots over on LinkedIn, you might be doing things on Instagram, or wherever, what other channels you might be using, but you still need to take them somewhere, and that is your website. And because by then taking them to your website, they're coming into your world. You have more control over your website and how it looks, and the feel, the words you use, the journey you take them on. Whereas when you're on a channel, you're kind of a little bit, tied to what they want to keep you. Instagram want to keep you on that channel. They don't want you to leave. Whereas I'm sort of saying, you want to get them over to your website. So SEO, therefore, is that process of optimizing your website, creating quality content that aligns with the problem that this person is trying to solve. And then, backlinks, which is kind of a bit techy, but it's the way you would improve the rankings in the search engine results. I'm happy to go deeper on that if anybody has any questions. So yeah, so there's things you kind of need to do to your website to make sure that you can really make it, give it a really good chance to be visible and working for you. Oh, there's lots of people coming in. Yeah. So, and also the kind of process of SEO is such that it's a lot slower. So, you could throw money at ads and get the traffic, as I said just now, but SEO isn't a quick win. It's a much longer term strategy, but it's more sustainable is kind of the point. So the analogy I like to use is bamboo, where you might plant some bamboo, think it's not growing, not realizing that it's developing its underground tendrils and all sorts of things going on, and then all of a sudden it kind of whoosh, it grows and it gets a bit out of hand. And I have first-hand experience of this in my garden. And it's a great way of likening it to SEO because it is a slow burner, but once it's all working well, it can really serve you in the long term. And also with SEO, it's more authentic. Again, paid ads can be great and they have their place, definitely, but they are the process of creating more content and telling your story, getting your messaging right, and blogging and sharing your knowledge. All of that makes you more authentic, and you have a digital footprint. Essentially, you have content that you can use to your advantage, but also to prove that you're not just a kind of one-hit wonder. Whereas with paid ads, anybody could set up a paid ad, I guess. Yeah, and any questions on that, or before I move on?
The question in the chat, L or Ellie was asking if backlinks is still relevant.
Yes,
Google was saying Google has sort of disadvantaged that. So, love for you to speak to that. So
backlinks are still very much relevant because they are the way that Google can trust you. I think where backlinks have had a bad rap is that there were link farms and businesses that were trying to sell you a package where you would get X amount of links for whatever, but that's not authentic. And by just creating the right content for your ideal customer, you are going to naturally attract more of the right websites wanting to link to you. And yes, there are techniques and things of outreach of getting more backlinks, but it's quality, not quantity. So the way I like to explain it is, if I said to get a carpet cleaner to do all my house, and Heather says, Natalie, I can recommend a great carpet cleaner, they did a great job for me, well priced, da, 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 da. Straight away I will trust that company because Heather's had a great experience, and I might not therefore do my due diligence. When you have links, when your website link is on credible websites, that is the thing. That's Google going, okay, I trust them, so I'm going to trust you a little bit more. So yes, backlinks are still very, very important, but arguably the hardest thing, the hardest part of SEO.
Amazing. I kind of think about the backlinks as being your references on a CV. And it's like Google says references are good, and people go around and go, yes, I will have 10,000 references and I will buy them. Yeah, no. You went from 0 to 10,000 references in like 6 months. This is nonsense.
Yeah.
But the earned references from high value companies are worth more because they're so hard to get.
Yeah.
Kind of counterintuitive there. So love that analogy.
But also, if you're doing some PR, or you get the opportunity to do some kind of interview in a reputable publication, then that straight away could be a really powerful backlink. But all you're doing is telling your story. You're not trying to cheat the system. You're just getting your story out there and sharing it, and therefore getting a good backlink in return. I've just seen Gareth's question about where can you find someone to sort out your backlinks.
I know. There's someone right here that can do that for you.
Yeah, so I could definitely talk to you, Gareth, about a tool that is very, very helpful, that would help with that.
All right. Fantastic. Someone's having an amazing time.
I know.
All right, cool. Backlink party at Alyssa's house. Man, this is my every time I do a webinar, he will come and join me and try and like smack stuff off the desk or shout at me. So any of you guys know, you'll know, get to know Sputnik. So he's just part of the show now. So
excellent. They just know, don't they, cats? They just know.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're paying attention to that. I know, me. Amazing. And I think, that's, if I could connect that to SEO, I think that's about where are your customers paying attention? Where are they currently finding information? What are they currently searching for? And then showing up where they already are. What are they already moving? And that's why I love SEO as a traffic source, because people that find you via SEO or paid ads, even, they're already looking. They're already, inherently motivated to make a change. And I think, for coaches specifically, you'll appreciate how difficult it is to change people's. If someone isn't coachable, they don't want to change, coaching ain't going to work. Whereas someone that's already in a solution-seeking mindset, it's a warmer prospect. And I think that's why, but SEO for coaches, I thought, man, we got to get Natalie on to share the message and just, make people aware of her as a resource, because, it's such a powerful strategy. And I haven't really seen someone actually do it effectively until I met Natalie. So, amazing.
Well, you made a good point there about aligning the problem with the solution. So, as you say, somebody's already looking for help, but that might not be them actually realizing that your service exists. And this is where blogging comes in. So when you're answering questions and creating blogs that using long tail keywords, what you're doing is you are kind of meeting them where they're at, which is great. It's not a hard sell. It's more of an informational a search. But then you're addressing the problem and answering that, but then you're kind of positioning yourself subtly as somebody that could help them overcome it. And if getting them onto your mailing list at that point would be a great conversion, because they might not be to want to buy from you. They might need a little bit more. They might need to understand more about you and trust you over a period of time, but they're in your world then, and you can nurture them on your email list, etc.
Amazing. Yeah, Ellie said, she said, no idea blogging was still a viable tactic. I think, creating good content that people actually care about is never going to go out of fashion. If you're blogging by regurgitating stuff, and I think especially in the age of AI now, bad blogging is no longer a strategy.
Yeah.
Creating good content that your audience cares about will never go out of style.
No. And a website and blogs aren't a one and done thing. So it's like a social channel. You have to keep creating fresh content and showing up. And so blogs, you don't, again, it's not a quantity necessarily over quality. It's more, you could have a handful of really good blogs that are ranking for keywords, and then you can just keep increasing the amount of keywords that they're ranking for over time. So it's still a very, very powerful tactic for online marketing.
Fantastic. And I think I just want to also just qualify that there's content at different stages of awareness. There's content that helps you be discovered, but once people are on your site and they know who you are, there's the opportunity to create. It's not just people have this idea that it's like, oh, I'm going to search on Google, I'm going to find the website, and I'm going to spend $25,000 on coaching. Right? Not really how it works, and I wish it did. But it's like, if you think about how long it takes to sign up a coaching call, what are all the different questions that they ask? Where do you come from? What do you look like? Where do you work? Who do how did you get to here? What kind of dynamics? What kind of disciplines have you done? Do you work with religious people? Do you work with non-religious people? Do you work with spiritual people? Do you work with mindset, with weight loss, with all of these things? That's all content. And people are asking that stuff, and I think this is, if you can, SEO is about taking all those questions, the cognitive load of that persuasion process, and getting it out of your head, so you don't have to keep on explaining it every time, but get it out to the front of your funnel, so that doesn't have to be happening every time. And if people want to find out more about you, you send them a link, you send them an information, and that your communities and people that you care about, they start doing that, and that's where your backlinks come from, and that's where your content comes from. So you're building this awareness, consideration, warming up engine on the front of your funnel, so that you don't have to do it anymore. Robots are doing it for you, and the friendly robots are doing it for you.
And you can signpost people really easily then. So you'll be asked a lot of the same questions, and that takes time and energy to answer. So when you can then kind of point people to articles that you've written, it really sort of helps to speed things up as well. Yeah,
amazing. Good stuff. I'm gonna. Can we pause SEO there for a second, and then I'll talk a bit about. So we'll talk a bit about those two. I'll talk a bit about these two pieces, and then we'll open it up for questions. You guys okay with that? Happy days. All right. So we've got people warmed up. You've created a crowd. People understand who you are. They're like, yeah. And really, the game here, we talk about a lot of tactics, but for me, there's one game here, which is connect with your audience. Connect with the actual humans, and especially from a coaching point of view. All of these tactics, all of these strategies is about creating a connection with people that you can serve and serve powerfully. So for that reason, events, such a powerful, as much as I love all the, I love tech, but I almost feel like I love talking about tech more than I like actually getting behind the bits and pieces, like and sitting behind a desk, laptop. And when I focused on coaches as a segment, to me, your most powerful asset is your message. Like, you literally speak for a living. And all of the marketing, ultimately, when it works, it gets you in contact with you. It gets people in contact with you, and if you are the product, then that is what is ultimately people going to make a decision about working with you. So as a marketing, it's like a linchpin for events, a linchpin for marketing. I really like events as a as a mechanism. So firstly, it's versatile. Like you can use events for a number of different things. If people don't know who you are and you need to warm them up, you can do an educational type of event. If you need to increase your visibility or get borrow communities, you can do joint events like what we're doing now. As we're saying, hey, there's a natural connection between here. We should do that. Super powerful. I mean, where do you get 60 minutes of attention? People who show up will be like they're actually paying attention to you for 60 minutes. Where do you get that these days? I mean, obviously, I still have the opportunity to mess it up and not resonate, and people will leave. Like that's on me. But you have the opportunity to say, okay, cool. This is here's you've got that opportunity to have that focused attention. And the third thing I love about events is that they're scalable. The same mechanism, once you've set up the infrastructure, the registration, the email process, all of that stuff, it works just as well for small groups as it does for large groups. I mean, the same infrastructure that we've got now with roughly 13 people on the call, it's nice and small. We can have really like a focused conversation, more like a strategy call. We could just as easily, if we wanted to scale this up, you could have 100 people in this room and the cost doesn't change. The marketing, the fundamental machinery doesn't change. So you can actually scale it up quite nicely as an event. And then, of course, the recordings from the event with things like Otter and with these things, you can then take the questions and excerpts from the recordings, create that into blog posts or YouTube videos or things like that. The questions from today's session, probably really good, useful for Natalie to go and take, out of that and be like, hey, cool. We should, these are the questions. Are backlinks still a thing in 2023? I mean, that sounds like a blog article.
Yeah.
So this is why I love, I would consider in terms of scaling up events, considering adding that into your marketing mix. Whether it could be a monthly webinar where you have a bunch of people in, or it could be a weekly roundtable or a mastermind or something like that. You could do a joint event. You could do so many different things, but I invite you to consider that as an ingredient in your marketing system, and in terms of scaling up, especially as a coach. The ability, if you are the product, it enables you to do what you do best, and then you can outsource a whole bunch of the other infrastructure so that you can really shine and stay in your zone of genius. Also to introduce that as a concept. Happy to answer any questions about that. Obviously you guys are in a link to you're in an event right now. So, must be working on some level. So as an idea, I'd like to have you guys think about events. And obviously LinkedIn events specifically, of the events, I love events as a way to get started because people don't understand, it's not a well understood mechanism, but you can invite 1,000 people a week to an event with no ads and no cost. And you multiply that out between as many people as are inviting to events. So if you have 2 people inviting people to events, you can invite 2,000 people a week. Pretty cool. LinkedIn events, you can connect them to Zapier, and from there you can connect them to your marketing system. It simplifies the technology very, very massively. You don't have to have, it's 4 pieces of software instead of like 8. I think it's the world's simplest webinar funnel. You guys have done, Russell Brunson or any of those sort of expert secrets. He talks about the webinar funnel. You can do this. You don't even need ClickFunnels to do this, but if you can literally have your LinkedIn page be the landing page. You connect that to your email follow-up sequence, and job done. It can be very targeted, down to the level of as targeted as your network is. So you invite your first level connections to an event, and if you've been deliberate about your first level connections, that should be very densely populated with your target customers. And then also super easy to do, JVs and partner events and things like that. In fact, I'm busy developing a network of people that will invite people to your events on your behalf in exchange for a commission. So it's kind of ready to go events. So yeah, the next thing I want to talk about. So any questions on LinkedIn events? I mean, I can go very deep on this topic, but I just want to open it up and say, if you're not doing this, I invite you to consider it. I'm happy to chat more about it. You know, I could talk quite a lot about it, but I just wanted to open this as if you're not looking at these, it's a powerful part of your strategy. Any questions about LinkedIn events?
Can I just ask a question?
Of course you can.
Obviously, the 1,000 people is based on you need to have that many in your network in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or you need to be friendly with someone who is. But for me, critical mass is 4,000. It can start if you have 1,000 people, you can do an event every couple of weeks and invite 1,000 people, and that's enough to kind of prime the pump. At 4,000 people, you can invite. That makes sense to start doing one fortnightly, or if you do one once a month, you'll just have more people in it. Cool. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Right. I'm going to go. Then the next thing, in terms of events and doing events, there's another piece I've alluded to, which is CRM. Now, CRM is there's a lot of words for it, but I'm going to visualize. I want you guys to consider this. It's the glue that holds the whole thing together. So what I'm going to do now, hopefully, is give you guys a live demonstration of scale. Are you guys ready for this? Okay, you're going to see it here first. We're going to demonstrate it live. Okay, you ready for this? Okay, so here I have built in. Oh, okay. Firstly, can the screen? Okay, can you see my screen? Can you see there's nothing up my sleeve? Okay, so what this is I've actually built out. So this is a funnel. This is what happens if you use LinkedIn events over here. So webinar into a live call, into a discovery call. And from there into a sales page where somebody buys something and then ultimately gets added into your program. Okay. Cool, huh? My mom asked me, what do you do for a living? I'm like, I draw pictures, Mom. We build systems like but this is a very typical. So there's a webinar funnel, and over here, what we've got is a Google, traffic funnel. So you've got Google over here as your traffic source, going to a content page, from there into an opt-in page, potentially from there to an email sequence and an application page to have a discovery call with you, to then go to a sales page, potentially after a call to go and buy your program. Okay, so this is a very typical funnel, quite a simplified funnel, but it's pretty much the kind of system you would see or would hope to have as a coach if you're going to scale your business. You guys okay with this? Does all make sense? Okay, I'm just curious, show of hands, you can just use the thing. Who actually has a system like this that it's all connected like this, that someone can actually register, connect it up? Okay, right. So this is the infrastructure that we need, in order to scale. And this is why I say connecting it all together, is that all of these things, Gareth says he does. Excellent. Gareth's also in marketing. He's a good guy. That I find, in terms of scale, this to me is the most I say the most attractive problem, right? To me. I mean, as a kid, I remember my mom had this jewelry box, like with necklaces and earrings and stuff. And, it's one of the laws of physics that you leave that thing alone for a couple of days and everything gets all snarled up. Like hose pipes also have a similar physics to them, right? But these chains and things, they'd all snarled up and they'd get all wrapped up on each other. And I used to love spending an afternoon laborious making them and getting them all straight and neat. And I feel like this is what I still do for marketing. In marketing, is you go, you get behind the company and you find all of the stuff is all like, there's Facebook over here and Instagram over here, but none of it is all wired up. And to me, that is, your CRM. And when I looked at coaching as coaches as a vertical, this is a challenge that I thought, yes, this is my kind of thing, is connecting all of the stuff in such a way that it is all connected up. So, you guys ready for this? So we've got a sales page over here, and I've preloaded this up with a done for you coaching offer of a $3,000 offer. Okay, so that's what we're selling here. I think most of you guys have programs that are around that sort of mark, but let's just use that as an example. All right, so if this is all wired up, let's load up some variables here. So let's imagine that we've got LinkedIn invitation, we have 4,000 LinkedIn connections. Righto. Okay, now let's over here go on a monthly basis. You've got the specialist in the house. You've got Natalie doing your Google, and Natalie, how many monthly visitors should we send to our website?
It's going to be the age-old question answer of it depends.
It depends. All right. Fantastic. Well, let's say that we've worked with you for 6 months, all working brilliantly.
Yeah. You've
done everything that Natalie said, and we're getting 2,000 visitors a month from Google. Sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. So we've got 4,000 LinkedIn connections that we're doing an event every month, and then we've got Google going to a website. Again, this is a simplified website journey. And we've put in a couple of things, but this is what happens when it all is connected, once it all works. Appreciate there's some work to get this done, but I'm going to press this button over here, and you're going to witness scale in real time. You guys ready for this? I've really hyped this up now. All right, okay. All right, okay, we're going to go. Just like that, someone's knocking at the door. Right, amazing, cool. All right, did you see that? Did you watch carefully? So 2,000 people arrive here, 120 people RSVP, 14 people make it onto sales calls. Out of the 14 people who make sales calls, 14 people buy something. Wow, that's 100% conversion rate. You got 14 customers. From here, we got 2,000 visitors that make it to the opt-in page. Oh wow, we've got 100% opt-in over here. They make it 14 sales. You can see how it all dribbles down. And if this is all wired up, it should all connect. And ta-da! $44,000 of revenue. Okay. Right. Now, this is what scaling a business looks like in real time once you've done the work to connect all of those things up. Traffic at the top, and it all propagates down to the bottom, and money comes out the bottom. Building that is not free. And I think if you take one thing away is you're going to build it one piece at a time. And you're either going to do from my experience, you're either going to go from where you are journey, you're either going to go build the front end of the funnel first or the back end of the funnel first. Start getting more awareness, start getting some clients, start getting some sales, understand what that is, build the delivery systems, and then scale up your delivery systems. Or if you manage to get a referral feedback loop going first, you start getting some clients, you build that out first, you get some clients, then you build out the delivery system, then you invest in traffic. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure, depending on where you are in your journey. So in terms of choose your own adventure, I'm going to you have an opportunity to see where you are on the journey. If you need more traffic and you need more leads, definitely you should speak to Natalie and get your SEO and get your website and your messaging sorted out. If you're finding you have the tangled spaghetti mess of technology problem, you speak to me, and I will have, with great joy, unpick all of that for you. If you like to do events, definitely speak to me. If you want ads, speak to Natalie. The miracle of modern technology is a handy dandy QR code which will allow you to book a strategy call with either of us. And what will happen in that strategy call is, if you had to work with me, the first thing we do is we build that little diagram, and we build out, what does that look like for you? Like, what is the state of your system right now? And if you're going to speak to Natalie and have a strategy call with her, you will experience, ta-da!
So what we do is we kind of take a step back and look at the messaging and the problem you solve, and kind of figure out, make sure that bit is right and working, and then we would do some sort of quick wins on your website, audit and try and tighten things up to get a bit of more visibility, and that could include local search as well, which is a good tactic. And then you're in a better position then to kind of look at keyword research and align that data with the content you then need to create a plan, utilizing the content you have as well, because you're bound to have a wealth of great content on socials or other places, but it's then trying to figure out that, right, what are the key pieces you're going to need to be talking about, but for all stages of the funnel, but particularly kind of at the top, and then blogging, knowing how to do that effectively, learning the skill, the tools that you would need to use as well, and then kind of some of the off-site tactics like backlinks and so forth.
Amazing.
That's kind of the journey.
Fantastic. So excellent timing. So we've got some time. Now that concludes the content portion of the presentation. Now I open it up to questions. We've got about 10 minutes or so for questions. So if there's what burning questions do you guys have about scaling your business? Yes, you're off mute. We're just having a...
I suppose so hello, nice to meet you, John. Thank you. Thanks for the invite, Al.
Sure.
Al Anderson invited me, so popped it into our chat.
Cool.
I'm just starting out to have a look at doing all of this, so all of this is just new to me and fascinating. Am I ready to scale? Probably not to the extent that I've just seen, but that's the hope. The hope. And so
Fantastic.
I'm on the learning trajectory, as they say.
Fantastic. Well, I'm happy to have a call with you. I'm sure Natalie would as well, and just see where you're at.
Yeah.
And even if we're not ready to work together just yet, happy to just give you some pointers, make sure that you're heading in the right direction. Signpost you to any resources that we can help you with, and just maybe you might be further along than you realize.
That would be good.
Amazing. Tell me what.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say to Shelby that when you're very sort of new, when you're early on in the journey, the shiny object syndrome can kick in a big way, and start thinking that you need to be spending money left, right, and centre. And when companies are doing their marketing well, they convince you.
I put my face on the screen because yes, because it's all shiny and new, right? So. Yeah, I need to go and buy this computer, or I've gone and then somebody's come to me, well, actually, maybe you should be doing that. And that's, you're right, Natalie.
Yeah. So actually, like John says, we can give you pointers, because there's a lot of things you don't need to be doing. Actually, it's doing the right things at the right time. And I guess that's where I think I can certainly help. Give you some pointers. Okay. Sure.
Pick up with you afterwards then.
Great. Yeah, please do.
Absolutely. Yeah, can I speak for both of us and say this is a long-term play? I mean, it might not be, this is all, it's part of a journey. And, we're both committed to this thing for the long term. So even if, we just get you started on the right footing right now. And a lot of the stuff doesn't need to people, because there's a booby trap inside the kind of coaching. I'm sure you guys will have some clever words, a better word for this. But as coaches, you tend to look at other successful coaches, and you look at, the Brendan Burchard, and you look at Tony Robbins, and you look at Russell Brunson. And they've got Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads and Google and this and that and that. And we look at this and go, oh, we need to build that too. But you pull back, and that's not how they started. That's not how, they didn't do that stuff first. They did that last. I
would agree with that, because it was this morning. I jumped onto LinkedIn, and somebody I know that I didn't think that they had scaled, but yet they've got advertising van adverts, and I'm thinking, how the hell are they doing that already? Right? It's a jungle. It's a jungle.
And there's a time and a place. It's just that often they're doing it at the wrong time, and they're going to learn from that dearly in some respects. And yeah, it's kind of having made lots of mistakes myself, it's being able to kind of stop people making those mistakes like I did. I guess I am my ideal customer. I was kind of where you are, so that's often the case with what we're doing.
Fabulous.
Amazing. So when you say just getting started out, do you have, Elsa, you got a question? You're raising your hand if you got a question.
Hi John and Natalie. So I have a quick question, and I'm not even sure if this is the right platform, but when you're doing your webinar, how much content and how do you know what content to focus on, especially when it's your first one and you have so much to talk about and say? You want to get that traction where you're building your customer base, and your product or service can serve anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind answering that. I would say that's where you need to make sure your messaging is right, because there's tons of things I could talk about. I could talk about this stuff for days and days on end. But actually, there's certain things that are really important for me to put into my content, because they're particularly at meeting my ideal customer where they're at. So I would say that before you start thinking about the actual content, potentially you're trying to be too wide. Maybe you do need to kind of figure out the messaging and ideal customer bit a bit more, and also ask your audience. Ask people you want to learn about, because that's a great way of being able to create content for a webinar that would hit the mark. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Ellis, you and I can chat in a lot more. You have the benefits of my full attention. So Ellis and I have just started working together. She's about to do her first webinar very soon, actually.
Yes, actually around the corner. I was doing my to-do list right now as we were talking.
Well, Ellis, happy to spend some time with that. But I think, if I had to just build on what Natalie was building, is that I'll tell you a hard truth that is very freeing, is that it's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about what you do. It's not about your services. It's about your customers, about where they want to go, and the things that they're in front of, the problems that they're in front of them. If you understand what your customers, just talk about the problems that they have. And it's going to be a bit of work, and that to me is learning. It's the fundamental building block of your is understand. I've got a little slide on. I mean, excuse this is the workings of my inner brain here. But if you think about the journey that your customers want to go on, they're over here. They want to be over here. And there's a journey that you're going to take them on eventually. But as experts, we tend to want to talk about this place or this final obstacle, whereas they're not there yet. We want to use empathy and go back, and they're busy staring at this thing over here and bumping their head against it. We want to find out what that is and talk about being free of that.
And that's where the meeting them where they're at, not where we think they should be at or where we think they're at, but actually listening and understanding what they're struggling with. So like John says, they are the hero of the story. They are the one. Nobody likes somebody who talks about themselves all the time. So it's very much about meeting them where they're at.
Excellent. I'll give you one last tip. And you were about to say, Ellis? Sorry?
No, I was saying that just it confirms that I'm on the right track for the first webinar. So that's good.
Amazing. And there are a few tricks that I can show. You might have noticed that I did it, especially is I didn't tell you who I was or what I was doing until we got into it. Because I was like, no, I'm just here. Tell me about you. Tell me about what's going on with you. And then I could frame my story in the context of who was in. You know what I mean? So it's not about, you don't have to get it right. You can cheat. So definitely. Heather, you had a tip about squirrel wrangling, and then I'm going to call it a day.
Just a very quick note from the squirrels. Just reinforcing what Natalie was saying earlier. This whole thing around your messaging, but also keep the simplicity of it. If you're going to scale, and whether you're right at the beginning, if you've got that message of what you're doing for the client, nothing to do with you at all. If you've got that, it makes the beginning of the journey easier, but it also makes it so much easier to see where you can go. And that's the thing you missed at the beginning. I'm a squirrel tamer. Stuff that goes on in your head. And oh my God, if I'd known then what I know now in terms of that whole thing around messaging, and it then makes whether you work with Natalie or whoever you do stuff with, it's so much easier if you have that really core simple message in place, and it means you can go to those people with confidence and say, this is what I want to get out there, and then it's so much easier to work with outside people as well. So that's the note from the squirrels.
Amazing. Great stuff. Well, that's the top of the hour. I want to thank you all very much for your time and attention. You guys will get a follow-up with the recording and also next actions in terms of if you want to, take advice conversation with myself or Natalie. You guys have been an amazing audience, and thanks, Terence. That's a great feedback of passion and commitment to excellence. Whew, amazing. I definitely won't tell you that we were putting slides together 2 minutes before the call then. But thanks, Natalie. Any closing comments?
No, I mean, and thank you from me. It's great. I really quite enjoyed it.
Excellent. Brilliant. Well, thanks. Great stuff. Thank you, everybody. And go and serve. Go and help people and make money.